I've been trading in some shape or form since 2018. 99% of that has been manual, meaning I click the buttons on my phone or on my computer, or I go in and I manually set the orders, the fill prices where I want them. But lately I've been thinking, what if I could automate my trading? Like letting a trading bot completely trade for me on my behalf with real money. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. By the end of this video, we are going to have real money results with real trades on a real live Tradevate account, fully automated. But first, we need to set this up. So for the past 2 or 3 years, I've been trading a breakout strategy. There's literally nothing wrong with it. It's actually making money, but I've been collecting data, and the longer I've been collecting data, the more data I collect, the more that data has been signaling me to stick to swing trading. Like it's more profitable, it makes me more money, better win rates, etc. And that's awesome. That's great. If it's making money, like I'm good. Yeah, I'm happy. But I've also thought if I have another 15% year like last year, this year, God forbid I go down and have a negative year, that's not really going to speed up any compounding of the account, right? It's still going to take you a long time, especially if you're not adding money to your account. Then if you're compounding at 15% per year, the compound effect, it's going to work, don't get me wrong, but it's going to take its sweet time to really get going and really bring that up to being larger and larger and larger. You have the potential to miss trades because you just simply weren't around. I just didn't have my phone on me, or I was out doing something else, or I was working on something and I just didn't see the alert. And so I didn't take the trade because I didn't see it. And then, of course, the risk of emotions, like letting that play into things and having a losing streak and then getting caught up in that, or having a winning streak and doubling down. And then you're not able to kind of like systematically do things as good as maybe a computer could. So that's essentially why I started looking at automation, and not to chase a get rich quick scheme, but simply to have an additional potential income stream that trades more frequently so I could let the compound effect work. Because if you have an edge, you essentially want to just take that edge and say, I want to trade as much as possible. But the problem is, if you don't have data behind it and you start saying, I want to trade more and more and more, you start taking trades that actually don't fit the edge. And we don't want to do that. So as a big data guy myself, I've been obsessed with tracking my trades on TradeZella, right? That's how I've determined I have an edge. I go to TradeZella, I go, hey, what's my win rate? What's my average risk reward? What days can I cut out? Or what things can I cut out? What things can I add? What things can I trim to improve upon my trading? I can see all this stuff. I can even see custom things like setups, time intervals that are working, that are not working, and then make adjustments on the fly. Not meant to be an ad for TradeZella by any means. You can just track all that data if you wanted to on Excel. You can export your data logs from your broker. Like you can do all this stuff. They just make it easier, so whatever. But a few months back, I came across a site called Edgeful. And at first, I thought Edgeful was kind of similar to TradeZella. I thought it was okay, it's going to be data, yada, yada, yada. Well, I'm already doing it with TradeZella. Why do I need Edgeful? But then I realized what Edgeful actually does. And Edgeful essentially, you can think of it as like a personal financial analyst. So they have a ton of data, a ton of reports for any tickers you want, futures, stocks, whatever you want to trade pretty much. And you can see the probabilities of this happening versus this happening on specific days, weeks, all of these reports custom tailored to what you want to see. So I started messing around and I realized like, oh wow, I can go in and plug in the tickers that I trade and see the reports and the probabilities of a gap down or a gap up or what happens after this. And I thought that was super cool. This is going to add to the ability for me to generate a new edge or to adapt or improve upon my current edge in my own trading. So it's like, this is the type of stuff I want to look at. I don't want to look at what someone's telling me online. I want to see it for myself and see the data, adjust it, customize it, and go, this actually will help me or this won't help me. If you knew that there was a 64% chance that gap downs on ES on Thursdays will fill, then when you see your long setup, does that give you more or less confidence if it's a Thursday and we just gap down? I don't know, to me it's pretty cool, but they just dropped something even cooler, at least I think. And that is their algo feature. As of right now, it lets you pick from 4 trading strategies that are all loaded into TradingView. What you can then do is customize those trading strategies, whether it's based off their own reports, whether it's based off of your prop firm data, or your own risk management tools, max loss, total account size, contract size, all of those different things, and the nitty gritty when it gets into the actual strategy. So all of that context to tell you that I'm going to be utilizing the strategies that they have, customizing them on TradingView, and then setting up a webhook to then have those trades, those alerts, get sent from TradingView to Tradevate, where Tradevate is then going to place the trades on my behalf so I don't have to do anything. So with that said, let's go and customize our first automated trading strategy. All right, so I'm here in the reports tab. I'm going to go to the algos tab right here. And if you're following along, I will leave a link to Edgeful below this video. But if you're following along, make sure you watch all these videos like I already have, actually multiple times, some of those videos, because there are a lot of little things that you need to make sure you pick up on before you take it to the next step. So then on TradingView, you're going to click on the indicators tab right here. You're going to then go to invite only, and then you'll get access through Edgeful to these invite only scripts. The ones we're talking about here are these that have the trading strategy designation right here, not just these. These all have the strategy designation. So now what they recommend is to start with the orb strategy, the opening range break, because it is one of the more consistent in terms of a win rate. I'm told the other ones aren't necessarily as good of a win rate. However, depending upon your risk tolerance, they can be better because you might be able to stomach more losses, but then larger wins and smaller losses net. So it really just comes down to that, playing that game and then what you're most comfortable with. If you're trading prop firms with this, you got to be careful because many prop firms have rules that you can't use automations. Some will allow it, but I would check with the prop firm. And then if you're using a more volatile strategy that has more drawdown, that's something you have to weigh. So once I turn it on, you're going to get to a page that looks like this. You'll see on the strategy tester on the bottom, you'll have the overview, you'll have a bunch of information. You might be like, what the heck's going on? I'm going to now optimize this. And how you optimize it is you really just click on the settings of the strategy. So you can do it a couple different ways. So from the top, I can go over here, find the strategy, hit the little settings icon, and then this page is brought up. And then if I were to look on the bottom, say it was too cluttered over there, I go down here, click on the Edgeful Algos orb, click on settings, and then the same thing pops up. So we can change our max loss. Let's move that to 1,000 just because we're playing on ES. We're not playing micros. Move it to 1,000, see how this changes. Oh, look at that. Just like that. I didn't even do anything. And we now have what looks to be a profitable back test. This is going back to June 1st, 2025 to right now, which is the middle of September. Profitable back test. Very strong performance, really looks like in June and then maybe July as well. And then it kind of has just been more flatlining since then. But this is essentially the TradingView backtest feature. So what we're trying to do now is create a solid backtest that's positively sloping, doesn't have a ton of drawdown, but then you have to weigh the drawdown with the overall returns, and then something that we can potentially, feel comfortable with actually trading our own funds. So I'm going to do that now. And when I get to that point where I'm feeling pretty good, I'll jump back. Okay, cool. So I've got my settings to a point where I feel pretty good. I think there's more optimizations that I can do. And I definitely am somewhat skeptical of the past couple of months. And I think that there may need to be some changes because it did really, really well in March and April when we had a lot more volatility in the markets. And then since then, yeah, it's been up, but nothing insane. So if I jump over here and I look at the last, let's say 90 days, it's up 67%. Hey, that's great in 90 days. I'm not going to complain, but I've seen scenarios where I think we can make optimizations over these past 90 days to where these numbers are actually even better, which is super, super cool. So I'm at the point that I'm feeling good. The other thing you can also do, or that is part of this, is you can actually pull from, if you go into here, you can actually download the file and export it to Excel, or Google Sheets or wherever. So you can extract more data. There's a lot of videos inside of the explainers on Edgeful that explain how to do that and why you would want to do that. That's pretty cool. But what you can also do side by side what I'm doing is I'm also looking at the different reports. So for example, if I jump over here and I click on orb, the opening range breakout, look over the past 6 months, I can get a lot of different data. And then I go into different sub reports by weekday and performance and all that stuff. I can get a lot of different data and customize my settings based off of this. Just make sure you're on the same time frames and you're using the same time frames that the settings on the reports you're pulling are. So you can just look at the reports to then make adjustments and say, okay, well, it looks like on Tuesdays, this strategy hasn't been doing very well. So if I was to go inside of here and take off Tuesdays, just don't trade on Tuesdays, we actually increase performance. So that's something we can do by just looking at the actual reports and then, monitoring them, because every couple of months, I think that data, well, everyone's gonna have their own opinion, but it might be worth adjusting over time. So that's what I will be doing. Now I'm going to let these trades play out for the next couple of days I'm going to come back to you guys here and show you at least what the results have been. But I also need to mention, in order to be able to customize the date range of your backtest, you will need to have a premium version of TradingView. I'll leave a link below to get $15 off if you don't have it already. It's not necessary, but it's pretty important because you can't do things like this and look back at the past year and see how the strategy has done and really customize your backtests. So the deep backtesting feature, as they call it, is something that you have to have a premium plan for. So I'll link that down below if you're interested, as well as a link to Edgeful. Let's see how this guy trades, and I'll come back with some results. Okay, it has now been 10 trades. It has been 10 day trades since I finally set this guy up, and we have some data to dive into. So what we have today is a P&L of $645.24 in the green, but that is just today. We are now up to $10,107.88. In this account, I began with just north of $10,000. So the gross P&L was actually, or is, over the span of so far this month from the 1st to the 18th. And I've only been trading this account from the 5th to the 18th. So it's been 10 trades, okay? We had 1 on the 5th, 5 the next week, and then 4 this week. So far, we are up $112.50. However, there are fees. So after the fees, we take away $47.60. We're left with a total of $64.90. Check that with TradeZella. Pretty close. $69.66. It's pretty close. It's like within $5. I'll take that in terms of accuracy. 50% win rate. So we had 5 winners, 5 losers. Our average win-loss is just profitable, meaning we have slightly larger winners than losers, so that adds up over time if you're averaging a 50% win rate. I could have started this bot or started this algo literally on Monday, and I would have had 1 loss to start, and then I would have had 3 winners. And I come here and tell you, hey, we're up, well over $1,000, or we're up $1,000. And you say, oh my gosh, I got to buy this right now, and I got to do it right now, and I'm going to miss out. This is how trading is. You are going to have to deal when you flip a coin, okay? Like, you're going to have heads a couple times. You're going to get tails a couple times in a row. Like, it will happen. You'll have to even this. This will get evened out over the course of a large sample size of trades. That's what makes more sense. However, I wanted to tell you guys how it performed so far, my experiences, did I like it? And then also, let's talk about some slippage, which I want to get into, and I'll show you some examples from the past couple of days. I can go into Edgeful, and if you go onto the Algos tab, you'll come to like the education page first. If you go down to where it says notifications, inside of here, you'll see all of the executions. Now, I've had a paper demo kind of like test account going as well, which I started with for the first like couple of days. The first couple of days of September, I did that first just to test and make sure it worked. And it did. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go live. And I put $10,000 into an account. I think it was like I had just north of $10,000 into the account. And I decided to go live trading 1 ES contract with the customizations on my strategy that I have made. If I want to go back to 2023, June 8th to now, so give it a second to update. But the thing is, like, the market's changed, and this is a perfect example of that. So yes, it's up 290% since then. You're like, wow, that's really good. Yeah, but you would have had to sit through a 91% drawdown. And if you really look at things from, looks like mid 2023 until just about October of 2024, so about a year ago, like that entire like year and a half span, like this strategy didn't work. Like it wasn't profitable. Like it wasn't terrible, but you did have to go down to a huge drawdown, but it didn't work. So yeah, we're looking good now, but just like it's looking good, like things will change. So a backtest is cool on paper, but it does not mean or guarantee anything in the future. But if you stay on top of it with your data, I think you could be in a good spot. That's kind of my approach, is I'm trying to stay on top of it and get myself and stay in a good spot in terms of like keeping this like decent. And if it's profitable, it's profitable. I don't care. If it's making money, let's keep going. You know what I mean? Let's talk about the fills and executions. So if you go into here, you'll see this notifications, and these will be all the notifications you get in terms of your fills. So let's go back to an example here on the 16th, a couple days ago. So this was a short trade. It entered here at 9:55. You see the buy right here at 11:42. That was the cover. So if I go into here, you go to view details, what you'll see under here is you'll see the exact fill that you got and the execution. You'll see when the signal was sent from TradingView to the broker, now in this case, Tradeovate, and then you'll see when the order gets processed. From the time the signal gets triggered on TradingView, 9:55 flat a.m. 9:55:02 a.m. is when we get the order processed. We're good. So 2 seconds. If I look into here, you will see the signal data coming out and saying, here is the signal price that we got alerted at, like to get short at this price. Go short. Like the strategy tells us go short at this price. 66, 15, 25. Where do we get filled? 66, 15, 25. Cool. That one looks good. Minimal or no slippage. It was great. Now let's see when we got filled on the buy side. Now you'll see the sell and the buy. But this signal is the buy signal. So we'll see. This took about 1 second from when the trigger went off on TradingView to when we got filled. Order was processed by the broker. Okay. Now this comes in and the trigger is at 66.05.25. We got filled at 66.05.75. So 2 ticks off, or 2 ticks higher, meaning we like missed out technically on 2 ticks worth of profit that we could have had based off what TradingView is going to then say the strategy or the trade made. So that's kind of hurting us, but not bad. We also have to take into consideration we are using market orders here, so we are not using limit orders. In a perfect world, what I would like to be able to do, and I would imagine Edgeful is working on this, is to be able to get triggered at a market order. I want to get in when the strategy says get in. I don't want to have to worry about not getting in. Get in and then have a limit order set with the take profit and stop, instead of have to have a market order on the execution on the out. So this way, like we get in, the order can then, you can take 10 seconds if you want in terms of how long it takes TradingView to then tell the broker, you know, here's where we're putting the stop loss and the take profit, and then it's left alone, and then you minimize execution or any slippage on the exit. Essentially, that's what I think is how this gets better. But I'm not going to complain. You know, think about it this way, right? If you're on your phone and you're going to execute on your phone, you got to watch the trade occur. And then you got to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to get ready. When this candle closes, market buy, which still could take, you know, a couple of seconds. And then when this take profit gets hit, okay, get ready. Boom, sell. So you still have to execute with the market order, and you can still have, you're not going to get the exact same fills. Again, you're also using a market order, so it's almost impossible to get the exact same fills. Just get me in the ballpark is all I'm asking for. I began trading this at a time where it's really not the best time to probably trade this, because if you go back through history on this backtest, I pull it up, you will see that the best time historically, or over the past year, was March, April specifically. And if you go back to that period of time, the market was pretty volatile. April, the market crashed and then it bounced back up. We had some big moves in that period of time. And so that's where it had made a lot of its money. And then since then, it was kind of chopping, and then it's kind of inched up because I've adjusted some settings based off this performance I'm looking at right now. But if you go back and we just look at, generally speaking, we just zoom out here, and we just had the Fed. So all this craziness was the Fed. But prior to that, we had pretty, like, I don't know, I want to say choppy price action here, choppy price action here. It wasn't trending incredibly well. You know, you had a day inside there, a very strong trend day right there. But look, you had a lot of double breaks where you'd break the green and the red on the strategy, on the orb. And so with those double breaks, it gives you, doesn't mean that you can't make money, you can, but generally speaking, you'll see a lower probability of profits or less profits when you have double breaks going on. So that's just by this strategy's perspective, the standard. I'm very excited to see how it goes, though, over the next couple of weeks and months. So I will leave a link to Edgeful down below if you want to check them out. If you want to use their data to build your own strategies out, if you want to use their algo feature, I will link that all below this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them below. I'm happy to update you guys on how this performs going forward, because I'm very excited about the automations in the trading world. Peace.